So it's now been a full week since Samsung pulled back its metaphorical trench coat and waved its whopper at the world, by which I mean, of course, it unveiled its very well endowed S21 Ultra, undoubtedly the star of the show at the very first Galaxy Impact of 2021. But while everyone's fapping themselves silly at the Ultra, don't forget this clever wee chappy here, the bog standard vanilla Samsung Galaxy S21, which might miss out on some of the Ultra's more premium features, but it also costs about 400 quid less than that supersized monster. Now, I've been using the Samsung Galaxy S21 as my full-time smartphone since shortly after the launch last week. So here's my full thoughts on the battery life, the performance from that Exynos 2100, the camera tech, and all of the other sexy bits. And for more of the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now first up, it's kind of weird, but Samsung's design has really grown on me. When I first saw those leaks, I thought that the eye-catching camera chassis looked about as sexy as a G-string Nigel Farage, even with a full back sack and crack. But when you actually have the thing in your hands and you can check it out from every angle, the Galaxy S21 suddenly seems to make a lot more sense. And after spending several days with Samsung's new 2021 flagship, my brain seems to have decided that it's rather easy on the eye. I certainly would have preferred a seamless blend between the camera chassis and that metal edging, but I still find myself admiring the aesthetics, and it's reassuring to have the camera lenses so well protected, submerged as they are into that surface. And the actual camera chassis only barely sticks out of that arse end as well, so it doesn't f*** up you using the Galaxy S21 when it's resting on a desk or a table. That glass stick finish around back is likely to once again raise plenty of eyebrows given the premium asking price, and I definitely prefer some pure glass action, the same Victus treatment as the front end. But thankfully the Galaxy S21 seems to be perfectly durable. I've deliberately treated the Galaxy S21 like a piece of trash these last few days just to test that durability, thrown it about the place like it was a DVD box set of Mrs. Brown's Boys, and there's nary a scratch nor a scuff on that glass stick rear end. And one premium feature that hasn't been culled for the standard S21 is that water resistance, which means you can merrily dunk this smartphone without cacking yourself about buggering it up. And the S21 is proper compact too, while one-handed use is an absolute doddle, helped by that easy access to the notifications panel and Samsung's always slick one-handed mode. As far as the software goes, you've got Samsung's One UI version 3.1 launcher squatting there on top of Android 11, and even though there's been some updates to some features like smart things, it's a very similar software experience overall to similar recent Samsung smartphones like the Galaxy S20 Fan Edition. All those best bits are thankfully back in action, like the fast access to Samsung Pay when your phone is hibernating. Just swipe up the S21 screen from the bottom edge and you're identified and straight in there ready to choose a card and pay. Of course, that is, as usual, a duplicate of an existing Android feature, and that's still my major beef with Samsung's One UI launchers, the fact you get so many duplicates. You got 2 payment options, 2 assistants, 2 browsers, 2 app stores, yada yada yada. But if you can cope with this little bit of added redundancy, then there's lots of features in there to love, including the aforementioned one-handed mode, the game booster tool, which I'll come to in a bit, and I got a bit of face recognition as well to back up the ultrasonic in-display fingerprint sensor. I got to admit, I was also concerned about Samsung's ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, as I had a few troubles with the scanner on last year's S20 phones, but so far, no worries at all there. It is proven nice and swift and accurate. Overall, I've got to say I did enjoy the software experience here on the Galaxy S21, but the real story is in the missing elements that you'll only find if you upgrade to the Plus or the Ultra models, the likes of the UWB tech, which allows you to use your phone as a wireless car key for supported models, and a tasty bit of S Pen support, which of course you'll only find on the S21 Ultra. And then there's features that all 3 of the new S21 Galaxy smartphones are missing as well, such as micro SD memory card support. So here on the standard S21, you're stuck with 128 or 256 gigs of storage, whichever one you opt for, although thankfully I'm still nowhere near close to filling the 256 gigs on this bad boy. Now, a lot has understandably been made of the fact that Samsung has dropped the Quad HD Plus resolution to a Full HD Plus resolution here on the standard Galaxy S21 and the S21 Plus as well, reserving that pin-sharp Quad HD resolution for the Ultra model alone. Definitely a real shame given the premium asking price. Thankfully, the 6.2-inch size here means that the dynamic AMOLED 2X panel is still pretty bloody sharp. Yes, it's not as crisp as previous Samsung flagship displays, which boasted the full Quad HD res, but I've happily streamed a shag ton of Netflix, Disney Plus and YouTube on this mofo, and it all looks great, especially on that vivid mode with bright poppy colours leaping off the screen and generally looking sexy as fuck. Plus, I find out I don't really miss Quad HD quite so much here on the S21, as I used to have to keep earlier Samsung flagships at that Full HD Plus resolution most of the time anyway, to enjoy that smooth as a buttered up Barry White 120Hz refresh rate. But no, that's definitely not excusing the S21 in any way, because after all, Samsung managed to get both the Quad HD Plus resolution and that 120Hz refresh working just fine on the Ultra model. And while I'm having a little bit of a grumble, it's definitely still a pain in the arse that there's no headphone jack on the Samsung Galaxy flagship phones, although at least the Bluetooth connectivity has proved absolutely perfect when I've been streaming to speakers or headphones. Now, all eyes have been on the fresh new Galaxy S21 smartphone family because of what's on the inside, namely Samsung's fresh new 5nm Exynos 2100 chipset with integrated 5G support. On the performance front, I've got absolutely no qualms with the Galaxy S21 at all. All week long, it's been running smoother than, well, my baldy bonds. However, for any benchmark enthusiasts out there, Geekbench 5 showed only a small bump in prowess compared with the year-old Snapdragon 865, as you can see in my comparison here with the S20 Fan Edition, which makes me think that the Snapdragon 888 should have the Exynos beaten. Gamers should enjoy a bit of the Galaxy S21 though. That nice flat display is perfectly responsive, and I blazed through games like Call of Duty Mobile on top detail settings with a perfect frame rate all afternoon long. And really demanding titles like Genshin Impact played absolutely fine as well, again running smoothly for prolonged periods, although when I bumped up to the highest detail settings I did see some drops in frame rate for sure, but it still stayed perfectly playable. And the phone was quite warm to the touch at the top end after a while, but it was certainly nothing troublesome. Samsung's Game Boost feature certainly looks slicker now, with an all-encompassing priority mode that immediately culls all of your notifications and keeps your head in the game. But the underlying functionality hasn't really changed, and you still have to drag down the notifications bar and awkwardly fumble about to get that menu up on screen. So many rivals like ColorOS and MIUI allow you to drag out that in-game menu just by swiping a finger from the corner of the screen or something, which seems to work really well in all the phones I've tested it on, so I'm not sure why Samsung doesn't just nick that idea, to be honest. Now, you've got a 4000 mAh battery stuffed inside of the Samsung Galaxy S21, which isn't as great as some rivals, and certainly I did find that the S21 struggled to make it to the end of the day more often than not. Quite often I'll be on the final dregs of my battery life around sort of 10 PM, and a couple of occasions it even died before then. There's a situation that's certainly not helped by the fact that Samsung's One UI launcher seems to drain between 7 and 10% of the battery itself every single day, and if you do a proper intensive task like a bit of Skyping or a bit of gaming, you can expect that battery to drain by a full quarter every hour. And in a battery drain test where the Galaxy S21 streamed video non-stop over Wi-Fi with the mobile connection disabled, the Samsung Galaxy S21 streamed video for 10 full hours before dying. That was a weaker result than both the S20 Fan Edition and the Pixel 5, both of which sport Qualcomm chipsets. The 25-watt wired charging is less than swift, and it requires an adapter that isn't actually bundled in the box, but I tend to stick with wireless charging, no problems there at all. So finally, that all-important camera tech, and it's definitely a massive shame that all of the Galaxy S21 headlines seem to be filled with ecstatic parading of that 100 times space zoom found on the Galaxy S21 Ultra model, a feature that I'm not even going to begin to pretend to understand the point in. Don't get me wrong, a camera zoom can be very helpful for grabbing a photo of your kids or your pets, or in this case a cheeky squirrel feasting gleefully on nuts without intruding on the actual scene. And in the case of the S21, that 64 megapixel so-called telephoto lens may rely more on image cropping than actual optical zoom abilities, but it's also strong enough to get a closer view of the action without compromising on picture quality, to some degree at least. Once you pass the 10 times zoom mark, things will start to get a bit grainy. But this will certainly suit the average consumer just fine for a little bit of zoom action. More important is that 12 megapixel primary lens, which seems to be well up to the task of snapping your everyday existence, even in quite taxing conditions. Here's just a handful of sample pics I've taken so far on the Galaxy S21, all of them using that auto mode, just point and shoot. Low light shots especially impress, boasting bright and sharp image capture. Of course, this wouldn't be a Samsung camera app without enough bonus modes to choke a donkey, and I'm once again loving that single take mode. It's been updated with a couple of extra features here, including a slow down speed up effort that I'm still not entirely sold on, but as a whole, it's still a tool that I love using. And all of Samsung's other photo features seem to work at least as well as usual, including the portrait mode, that handy night mode which can further brighten up any low light snaps, and that Pro mode for tweaking individual settings and capturing in RAW format. However, it's the video chops of Samsung's Galaxy S series smartphones that I really adore, and certainly in that area so far my early test in the S21 is no slouch at all. The headline grabber here is once again the 8K video capture at 24 frames per second with a video snap feature that allows you to effortlessly grab ultra high res photos when playing back in the gallery. So far though, I've been mostly shooting test footage in 4K resolution at 60 frames per second, giving you great, natural looking home movies. Audio pickup is good, that super nippy focus keeps your subject sharp as a tack, and if you drop down to 4K resolution at 30 frames per second, you can also freely hop between all three lenses on the fly with pretty smooth transitions. You want to get in closer to the action? Well, you can pinch in at up to a 12 times zoom maximum, but of course, again, once you pass that sort of 8-ish times zoom mark, things do start to get a bit grainy, so you're best sticking to the standard 3 times zoom level. That director's view mode is a completely separate camera mode which can swap between the different lenses on the fly as well, but also give you a preview of all of them at the same time, and you can also shoot with the front camera simultaneously using that vlogger's view. And last up, swap around to the front, and that 10 megapixel selfie cam so far seems as dependable as ever as well. Don't sniff at that low megapixel count because you'll still see all of those lockdown bags and sags all too well. And using that 10 megapixel selfie cam, you can actually shoot up to 4K resolution video at 60 frames per second. Once again, for nice natural looking results. And again, the audio pickup seems nice and clear, and just like those rear cams, seems to deal well with dodgy lighting and all that good stuff. So you'll still be looking pretty, unless you're me, in which case you just look like a hungover twat as usual. Now there was so much to discuss as far as the camera tech goes that I've actually done you a full separate S21 camera review, which will also cover the S21 Plus as it shares the same camera hardware. So go have a gander at that for a full analysis of the photo and video quality here on the S21. And that right there is my 1 week review of the Samsung Galaxy S21 after using it as my full-time smartphone since launch. And I gotta say, I enjoyed using it, I liked it, but is it a worthy upgrade? I'm not really sure because it doesn't really bring much to the table you didn't find in earlier Samsung flagships anyway. And certainly if you want the very best premium flagship features, you're gonna have to bump up your budget to around the £1,000 mark or well above, which is a bit bonkers. And please do let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. It'd be great to hear what you're thinking. And poke subscribe, ding that notifications bell, all the usual YouTube shit, and have yourselves a lovely rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!